Here we go. Germany and Poland. We've got Germany here, computers, grain. Germany can produce, okay, this is for one worker in Germany, just to make it real easy. A worker in Germany can produce 15 computers or 5 units of grain. In Poland, 4 computers or 4 units of grain. So, we plot their production possibilities curves. For Germany, let's see, let's just 15 there. And 5 grain, we'll put it about there. Okay, so there's Germany's production possibilities curve. Same for Poland. 4 computers, 4 grain. Easy enough. Now that we've got that plotted, the question asks for, what is the opportunity cost of one computer in Germany? Okay, one computer in Germany. Well, remember, if we want to know what one computer is, we know that computers go in the denominator. So we're going to plot the change in grain divided by the change in computer. Well, if we increase computers to 15, from 0 to 15, the change in computers is 15. But that would require that we give up 5 grains. So, 15 computers, we lose 5 grains. So 5 divided by 15. Okay, well, let's back up. So this tells us 15 computers cost us 5 grain. But we want to know what one computer costs. So we divide through. Okay, minus 5 divided by 15 is, well, we're going to put the 1 under there. Anyway, it's 0.33, right? It's a third. This is a third. I'm going to go ahead and divide and make it a decimal. So, one computer costs 0.33 units of grain. Now, how about how much does a unit of grain cost in Germany? What's the opportunity cost of a unit of grain in Germany? Well, we're just going to take the reciprocal. Now grain has got to be in the denominator. Change in computer divided by change in grain. Okay, so since grain is in the denominator, that tells us that when we divide through, grain is going to be a 1. 1 unit of grain. Well, like I said in class, we don't have to really go through this again because this is simply the reciprocal of this. So we can just turn everything over on its head, flip it upside down. Okay. So, 5 grain will cost us 15 computer. So if we go out here, we go from 0 to 5. We would have to give up 15 computers to get there. 5 computer cost us 5 grain costs us 15 computer. And 15 divided by 5, okay, is 3, or 0.33 reciprocal. Okay. So, 1 grain costs 3 computers. All right, so we do the same thing for Poland. So we see that we want to know what 1 computer costs. So if we go from 0 to 4 computers, that's an increase in 4 computers, but that's going to require giving up 4 grain. So what we have here is 4 computers cost 4 grain. Divide through. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 1 computer costs 1 grain. And we do it again for grain. Change in computer divided by change in grain. Now we got 1 unit of grain cost. Well, it's just the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1 is 1, so nothing changes there. So we've got 1 grain costs 1 computer. All right, so who has the absolute advantage? Who has the comparative advantage? Well, computers. For a given input, we've got the input here is worker, 1 worker, okay? So in Germany, 1 worker can produce 15 computers. In Poland, 4 computers. So for computers, Germany has the absolute advantage. How about for grain? Well, in Germany, a worker can produce 5 units of grain. In Poland, 4 units of grain. So Germany has the absolute advantage in both goods. Now, who has the comparative advantage? Now, absolute advantage just means you can produce more for a given input, or you can produce a given amount for fewer inputs. That would be the flip side of the same coin there. So, what drives trade is comparative advantage. Who has the lowest opportunity cost? Well, let's see. For computers, 1 computer in Germany costs 0.33 grain. In Poland, 1 computer costs 1 grain. Okay, so it looks like Poland has a little bit higher cost there. They have to give up more grain for a computer. So the low-cost producer, the lowest opportunity cost, the comparative advantage in computers is Germany. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that so we remember Germany has the comparative advantage in computers. How about for grain? Well, in Germany, 1 grain costs them 3 computers. In Poland, 1 grain costs them only 1 computer. So Poland has the lowest opportunity cost, and they have the comparative advantage in grain. All right. The next question asks, which should they specialize in? Well, each country should specialize in the area of their comparative advantage, and then trade what it is they're producing for the good in which they do not have a comparative advantage. So, Germany should specialize in computers. They should produce 15 computers, and if they want to eat, okay, they will trade some of those computers for grain produced in Poland. And Poland, they'll specialize in grain, And if they want to buy some computers, they'll trade some of that grain they produce and buy computers from Germany. Now it wants to know what range of prices will work here. Okay, let's start with Germany. Germany is producing computers. And one computer costs them 0.33 units of grain. Okay, so they have the comparative advantage in computers, so they're going to produce computers. What price would they be willing to sell those computers? Well, anything more, they'd be willing to sell one computer for more than 0.33 units of grain, right? It costs them 0.33 units of grain to produce the computer. So if they can turn around and sell it for more than that, they're happy. How about Poland? How much are they willing to pay for a computer? Okay, so Germany's the producer of computers. They're going to want to sell them. Anything higher than 0.33 units of grain will work for them. The higher the better, of course. But it can't be so high that there's no customers. What's Poland willing to do? Well, a computer in Poland, one computer in Poland is going to cost them 1 unit of grain to produce it themselves. If they can buy that computer elsewhere for less than 1 unit of grain, okay, the good we're trading is in the denominator. The price of that good is in terms of the numerator. That's what we're paying for it with. Forget about money right here. So think of it as, you can think of the numerator as money if you want. So if they can buy it for less than one computer for less than 1 unit of grain, they're happy. They're better off. So anything, a price, one computer, if it's being traded for anything between 0.33 units of grain and 1 unit of grain. That's the price range at which trade will take place here. So our exchange rate, I'll write it here. The exchange rate in the traded computers would be, let's see, grain, one computer, put computers in the denominator again, it's going to have to be greater than 0.33, or Germany's not interested, and the price has to be less than 1, or Poland's not interested. So somewhere in this range, that's the exchange rate that works for the trade of computers. If the price of computers is greater than 1, there's no market. Okay? Germany's certainly interested in selling, but there's no buyers. Poland will just produce the computers on their own. Okay? They'll produce grain and computers. All right. Now let's look at the exchange rate for grain. What's going to work there? Well, Poland's going to be producing grain. Okay? And 1 unit of grain costs them 1 computer. So as long as they can sell that grain for more than 1 computer, they're going to be fine. Okay, they're gonna be happy. Well, I don't know how happy they'll be. They'll be better off. Okay, they'll make a gain. Let's put it that way, which makes us at least a little bit happy when we do that. So, and then Germany, if they produce grain, 1 unit of grain there costs them 3 computers. Okay. So as long as they can buy grain for less than 3 computers, they're better off. So the exchange rate for Yeah, let me write it out here. Exchange rate for grain, which would be C over G, 1 unit of grain. Okay, 1 unit of grain will cost how much to be traded for how many computers? So it's going to have to be greater than 1. Okay, the price is going to have to be greater than 1, or Poland's not making a gain. And it has to be less than 3, or Germany will, just make their own grain. Okay, so the exchange rate has to be in this interval between 1 and 3. All right, I got this cleaned up a little bit here. It says, the next part of the question, it says it settles on a price of 2 computers for 1 unit of grain. So the actual exchange rate is this. They're going to exchange 1 unit of grain trades for 2 computers. Okay. And it also says that they agree to actually trade 4 computers for 2 tons of grain. Four computers. Okay. 4 computers for 2 grain. All right. So, remember, Germany is producing the computers. Poland's producing the grain. So, Germany's going to produce 15 computers, and they're going to trade 4 of them away to get 2 grain. So, I've got to fill this in. Let's see. How good of artist I am. 13, 11. We'll just do 2 at a time instead of 1 through 15. 9, 7, 5. Okay, well, I've seen better. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So they're going to be producing here. They're going to give up 4. So that takes them down to 11, right? So they want to know what they're going to be consuming. How many computers and how many units of grain will Germany be consuming? So they're going to be consuming 11 computers because they're trading 4 away for grain. And they're also going to be consuming 2 units of grain. Okay, I had to redraw this. It was not to scale, and it was not going to show the result, the actual result. So 15 is up here. Sorry, I can't draw. 15 is up where? There it is. 15's up there. And I can't draw it because they're putting the number in there because there's something else in the way. So up here is they're going to have to give up 4 computers, so they're going to consume 11 computers and 2 grain. Okay, so there we go. They're going to consume at that point right there. And as you can see, it is outside the production possibilities curve. They're going to be consuming outside their curve. They get this. These are the gains from trade. You can actually consume beyond what you can produce by specialization and exchange. Now, Poland is producing the grain. They're producing here. But they're going to give up 2 grains 2 units of grain. They're going to go from here to here. Remember, they're trading those 2 units to Germany, and they're getting 4 computers. So their consumption possibilities, they're producing 4 grains, giving up 2 to Germany, so that leaves them with 2 to consume themselves. They're buying 4 computers from Germany, so they're consuming 4 computers, 2 units of grain. Their consumption is outside their production possibilities. So there you go. The gains from trade. Germany's consuming outside their production. So is Poland. They're both better off specializing and exchanging. Now the question asks, well, I'll just read it. It says, suppose productivity of a worker in Poland doubles so that a worker can produce 8 computers or 8 grain per month. So doubling, let's see, that'd be up here. So the production possibilities curve just shifts out to the right. There's their production possibilities now. Now what has happened to absolute advantage? Well, Germany, they can produce 15. Again, there it's up there. And computers, and Poland 8. So the absolute advantage in computers stays the same. But now Poland can produce more grain than Germany. So Poland now has the absolute advantage in grain. But as far as trade is concerned, who trades, who specializes, and what happens, absolute advantage doesn't determine that. It's comparative advantage. So what has happened to the comparative advantage? Well, let's see. We've got change in computers divided by change in grain. Well, if we go out and produce 8 units of grain, it's going to cost us 8 computers, right? So the change in grain is 8. And at a cost of 8 computers, well, 8 divided by 8 is just 1. And that's what it was before. 1 grain costs 1 computer, and 1 computer costs 1 grain. So because all it did was shift out, the relative cost there, the opportunity cost hasn't changed. The relationship hasn't changed. 4 divided by 4 is equal to 8 divided by 8. So it's nothing has changed as far as the comparative advantage. But then it goes on to ask, what has the material welfare of either country changed? Well, Germany's not any better off because it was a worker in Poland that became better off. They're suddenly able to produce 8 computers or 8 grain. Nothing changed in Germany. So, but something changed over here. We can't say that nothing has changed. Poland is richer. Poland, if they specialize in grain, which they will because that's where they have the comparative advantage, they now have 8 units of grain to trade for computers. Okay? They're a richer country than they were before because their productivity increased. That's how you get richer, by the way. That's how countries get richer. That's the key to poverty. That's the key to everything, is increase how much stuff you can produce. That gives you more stuff to trade, and you can buy more stuff. So Poland's a richer country. The comparative advantage hasn't changed. They're still going to specialize where they did before, but Poland's a wealthier country. Now the question asks, how would your analysis change if you assumed more realistically that each country had 10 million workers? Well, 10 million workers, we just times all these numbers by 10 million. So instead of 15 up here, it'd be 150 million. Okay, instead of 5 here, okay, it'd be 50 million. So, there we are. Now, when we want to know the cost of grain, opportunity cost, let's see, change in C over change in G. When it goes to 50 million, and that means you give up 150 million. So what does that do to our analysis? Nothing. These all cancel out. And we're right back where we are before. Okay? So, no, it doesn't change the analysis. We just like working with smaller numbers. Okay? One last thing to point out. Okay, we established that Germany had the comparative advantage in computers and would specialize in computers. And that Poland had the comparative advantage in grain and would specialize in grain. And so everybody's happy, right? Poland's producing grain and Germany's producing computers, and they're trading with each other and they're better off. Okay, not everybody's happy. Who's not happy? Computer producers in Poland aren't happy. Grain producers in Germany, oh, there we are, grain producers in Germany aren't happy. Okay, import competing industries aren't happy. So yeah, computer producers in Germany are doing great. Grain producers in Poland are doing great. Grain producers in Germany having a hard time competing against Poland. And they are going to lobby the government saying, look, we've got unfair competition here. We want a tariff, okay? We need something to block trade. And that's going to make grain more expensive in Poland. The tariff is just a tax. And the computer producers in Poland may do the same thing. Look, we've got unfair competition against these Germans. We need a tariff. We need to tax these computers coming in so we don't lose our jobs. So computer producers in Germany don't shut down. Computer producers in Poland don't shut down. Now we're in the politics of trade. And that's something we'll get to more later in the course. Okay, a little bit more about arguments for free trade and arguments against free trade. Because of these competing industries. Now in the U.S., our manufacturing sectors had a tough time competing against Japan and others, China, some European steel, for example. Not everybody's happy with this free trade, as you well know. You've heard the news. You've talked about. There's a lot of controversy about how much we should trade. Should we trade? I've demonstrated that we're better off by trading, but there are those who are not better off. And so that is a big factor as well. Not everybody's happy with this arrangement, even though overall, the society's better off through trade. But there are losers in trade, that's for sure.